I didn't really know what to highlight. Right now, though, since you teed me up, Adam, I'm going to highlight myfrontpagestory.com. By far the best Mother's Day gift ever. Listen, we don't really know what to get our moms, right? Like, I literally text Adam, my wife, hey, what should I get my mom for Mother's Day? Then I text my mom, hey, what should I get Kara for Mother's Day? Because I don't know. And you're probably like me. So now you do know. Go to myfrontpagestory.com. It's unbelievable. You literally talk to a writer for like 10 minutes while you're driving to Chick-fil-A or driving home from work. Tell them how amazing your mom is. They write this awesome story. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can see it's framed, pictures, beautiful. I can almost guarantee they'll cry happy tears. And the best thing is it'll be hanging up in the house forever. So it's like a new gift every day. It's called myfrontpagestory.com. My front page story. Let's be honest, right? Like, moms are everybody's number one pick. There are no moms that end up being a bust, right? I mean, I'm sure there are some. I don't know many. Most moms are a pretty good, are a pretty solid pick if you take them in your draft. Get them an awesome gift. myfrontpagestory.com.
You should never draft a mom of need, right? You should always draft best mom available.
My mom was a reach mom, but it's worked out.
Ross Tucker is joining us here. All right, so the Panthers don't have anything to do on Thursday other than watch and enjoy the draft. Although if one of the, I say top 5 quarterbacks happens to sneak out of the first round, it probably gives them some things to consider on, Thursday night into Friday during the day. Do you think any of the top 5 quarterbacks, and I'm thinking that J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix are 4 and 5, do you think any of them are possibly going to fall out of the first round, or maybe will all 6 go in the first round?
I think we'll see. I think we'll probably end up seeing 5. I'd be surprised if it's 6. I'm following all the information, Adam, like you are. Tom Pelissero does a terrific job for NFL Network. He says he thinks 6 will go in the first round. Peter Schrager for Fox, NFL Network, he thinks 6 might go in the top half of the first round. That sounds like a lot to me. I mean, that would surprise me. Remember last year, I probably came on with you, Adam, and they were saying Will Levis was going number 2 to Houston, or Will Levis was going number 4 to the Indianapolis Colts. He goes in the second round. The year before that, it was, hey, the Detroit Lions, number 2, Malik Willis, very much in play.
Yeah.
Really? Because they took Aiden Hutchinson, and Malik Willis went like in the third round.
Yeah.
I mean, so we'll see. I will say there's some teams in a really bad position. I know it didn't look good last year for Carolina and Bryce Young, and I get that. But, man, I'd still rather be in their spot than being like the Vikings at 11 or the Broncos at 12, where everybody knows you're desperate for a quarterback, and yet what can you do at best? At best, maybe you can trade up with the Patriots or the Cardinals at 3 or 4 and get the third or fourth best guy. That's your best case scenario. A king's ransom for maybe the fourth best guy. It doesn't sound like a very good process to me, Adam.
Ross Tucker is joining us here. I know you do a lot of podcasts with Greg Cosell. And I mean, to me, he is fascinating in his film study and all of that. How does he look at this quarterback class? Is Caleb Williams way ahead of everybody? What about Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye? And where do the other guys stack?
You know what's crazy about that is all season, or at least even before the season, it was Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, right? And I'm watching these guys all year, watching some of their games. Then, obviously, Jaden Daniels had the phenomenal year, and he gets the Heisman, all that stuff. After the season, every guy I've had come on the Ross Tucker podcast, and we're hardcore football there. And, not only Greg Cosell, but Phil Simms, Dan Orlovsky, Chase Daniel, Louis Riddick. It's like unanimous, Adam. I mean, they all love Jaden Daniels, and they all do not like Drake Maye.
Really?
All of them across the board. Like that was kind of the consensus that Drake Maye was raw. Drake Maye was Phil Simms called him disappointing. And then Jaden Daniels, they're saying he's the best progression reader of the group, the best pocket passer of the group. We know he's the fastest.
Yeah.
So I like Jaden Daniels. I think he's the best. And if I'm going to have all these guys on my show and I'm going to ask them the question and every guy says the same thing, I might as well believe him. Otherwise, why am I even having him on the show? So I'm going to believe him. And so I got Jaden Daniels number one. I got Drake Maye quite a bit lower based on all this stuff. It's interesting. I mean, obviously, you're right there in Raleigh. Yeah. I don't know what happened with Drake Maye. I know the O-line wasn't as good. No. And he lost his receiver and all that stuff. But still, there were people before the year that said Drake Maye was better than Caleb Williams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think people looked at North Carolina the end of their season 2 years in a row, to be honest. And they did not play well down the stretch. But, yeah, his receiving core was not great. It took a while to get Tez Walker even eligible to play. And then he showed flashes. And I don't know that Tez Walker is anything better. I mean, he might be a late day 2 pick, probably a day 3 pick. So I don't think he had great receivers. I also don't know that Carolina's offensive coaching put Drake Maye in the best positions, but I mean, I'm not the trained expert, but I like Maye a lot. And so I actually think that as long as he doesn't have to play in year 1, I think he is a prospect that can absolutely develop into somebody really good. He's got good size. He's got a very good arm. I think the biggest problem I have with him is that he shows some medium range inaccuracies.
Yeah.
That to me is the only real problem with him. I think he throws a good deep ball. He's a super athlete. And he's got great size, but I think he's a little inaccurate to the middle of the field.
The knocks I heard were the consistent throw-to-throw accuracy and then that he misses too many layups. That's a hard thing in the NFL. I mean, if a guy's open for a first down, you got to be able to put it on him.
Right.
I mean, you just don't get that many opportunities. So I heard missing layups and I heard down-to-down accuracy not there for Drake Maye.
Yeah, part of it is also he just didn't have the weapons around him the last couple of years. If he had the weapons like that Mitch Trubisky threw to when Trubisky was the quarterback here, I think Maye would look a whole lot better. Ross Tucker is joining us here. A few more minutes with him. Which position do you feel like, because Carolina is going to pick 33 and 39, which position do you think is, because they need wide receiver, cornerback, offensive line. I think they need another defensive tackle as well. Which position do you think is deepest that will provide a lot of value early in the second round, even into the middle of the third?
So what's interesting is the first 3 you named, receiver, corner, O-line. I think there's a really good chance the Panthers can get 3 starters with, 3. That'd be really impressive. If they can get 3 starters with 2 picks, now we're talking. But no, but I do think they can get 2 starters out of those 3 positions in the 30s because there's a lot of good receivers.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of good receivers. There's a bunch of good offensive linemen, right? Like, in those spots, maybe Graham Barton from Duke, right? Maybe JPJ from Oregon. There's some tackles that'll still be available there. Paul from Houston. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that they could get at O-line. Corner the same way. It's probably not Terrion Arnold from Alabama or even Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo, but there's other guys. Maybe Kool-Aid McKinstry's still there at 33, right? Maybe Rakestraw from Missouri, if you want a nickel back. I mean, there's guys that'll be there, and even receiver, right? I mean, I can totally see them drafting Ladd McConkey, right, to give Bryce Young a guy that just gets open all the time, gets open, the Georgia receiver.
Yep.
Plus, I think it'd be pretty awesome for Ladd McConkey to learn from Adam Thielen for a year.
That is true. He's smaller, but again, everything you read about him and we've watched on tape at Georgia is all about he is just an elite route runner and can get open. The Panthers had nobody who could get open. Adam Thielen was the only guy who was ever open last year for Bryce Young. If if they went wide receiver with both of those picks, I wouldn't hate it. But in terms of cornerback, I had just talked about Kool-Aid McKinstry, who might be there at 33. I think he's probably a late first-round pick. But T.J. Tampa is another one of those cornerbacks who played at Iowa State that I know that I think that there is some interest there as well. I don't think Graham Barton's going to be around. I think when you're an interior offensive lineman and you run like a 4.8, and you're as good as he played tackle last year. He's played every spot for Duke along the offensive front. I think he's going to be gone, unfortunately, or fortunately for him. He's a great player.
I would tend to agree. I think he seems like a guy that goes in the 20s, and the position versatility is just gigantic. I mean, it really, really is, because you never know who's going to get banged up. You never know who's going to start to play poorly. And if you have a guy that you can move to other spots, boy, that puts you in a really good position.
Ross Tucker, you played offensive line. Can you be a great team without a great center?
Yeah, I think so, actually. I think you can. I played center, and center, the most important aspect of that is really the thinking part of it.
Right.
I started, I think, 4 or 5 games at center in my time, and, I was fine. I wasn't the reason why. I'm trying to think. We won a couple of them. We lost a couple of them, but I certainly wasn't the reason why we won or lost, right? Which is kind of what you want, that position. Now, there are certain guys that better have elite athleticism, like a Jason Kelsey. You also, of course, have guys, that are really powerful at that spot. But I think more than anything else, the center needs to be tough, durable, and smart, right? If he can make sure everybody's blocking the right guys and he's tough and durable, you can scheme around potentially perceived shortcomings athletically. Certainly the teams I played for did.
I know the Panthers offensive line was never better than when they had Ryan Khalil. And Khalil was an elite center and, some of the best offensive lines. I mean, whether you go back to the Steelers and Mike Webster, they're just, if you have an elite center, I think it makes everybody around you better.
I think it helps quite a bit. Yeah. I don't think you need one, but I think it helps. It's interesting about offensive line, different than other spots, right? Offensive line, it's not – I don't think it's as important, Adam, that you have somebody really good as it is that you don't have someone really bad, Wow. And I mean that. I mean that, on D-line – if you have average players, they're not really going to make a difference.
Right.
You need above average, like you need a Derek Brown, you need a difference-making player. On the offensive line, you just can't have a difference-making player negatively.
It's interesting. As we let you go, Ross Tucker is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Our friend Steve Logan, former head coach at East Carolina, and he's been an assistant in the NFL a lot. He had basically sometimes he would just ask his offensive line to get run over slowly. Right, just kind of get in the way and don't make it easy on the D line.
We used to say get run over with dignity.
Oh man, myfrontpagestory.com for Mother's Day. Craft a story that is worthy of mom or your wife or your daughter for Mother's Day. Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, all over the place. I appreciate your time, my man. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah, my pleasure, Adam. Anytime. Thank you for having me.
You got it, always. Ross Tucker here on the Adam Gold Show. And it's interesting, right? Former offensive lineman saying, yeah, you don't have to be great. You just can't be bad.
I love it.
I mean, I could push back on that. I think I would like great.
Maybe that would be a good life motto too. If you're having a rough day, it's all right.
Hey, you don't have to excel. Just don't suck.
Right? Exactly.
Honestly, that's probably a lot of people's life motto.
Right.
It probably is.